I want you to really think about this. Jesus chose peasant, illiterate people to be the 12. And prostitutes who had been forced into that profession because of debt foreclosure. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about that, and I want you to think about that again and again. Because I want you to think about how a parish council is chosen, for example. Do you think we would choose a parish council from that selection? Why do you think we turn these people, these peasant day laborers and prostitutes and sick people, right? The lowest of the worst so-called dirtbags from that world, right? Nothing worth people, throwaway people. Why do we turn them into these beautiful, Renaissance, gorgeous, old, wizened men and beautiful women, but they're sexless? And they're they look like they're from planet Krypton. Have you ever noticed that? In our religious art. Have you ever noticed that? Why do you think we do that?
Because we want to celebrate. We want to honor them. In the way that we think.
Do we really want to honor them? If you wanted to honor them, don't you think we would represent them more honestly?
Yes.
In their ugliness?
No.
No, you wouldn't do that? No? Maybe it's this. We don't want to honor them. We want to take their name and we want to attach it to a value that we already have. And that's what we're really buying. Something to think about. Maybe you could say the Renaissance artist was doing that. I'm not knocking the Renaissance artist or the Renaissance art. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm saying now, as we reinterpret and reevaluate and reappropriate that art from that time, what are we doing with these people, these so-called saints?
We're misrepresenting them.
And in doing so, by extension, Jesus. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this isn't any kind of new thought, but just, when you think that in all of human history, God chose that period of time for the incarnation. And it's just like so much poverty, so much,
Yeah.
And what does that say about God? Sending his son at that time in history.
And what does it say about being great? Like if you're a great country, what would a great country, a truly great Christian country, right? What would it do? What would it do to be a godly nation, right? What would a godly nation do? Well, we just had what many people are saying. Celebrate money, celebrate gold, celebrate power, so look sexy while you're doing it, right? That sounds like a golden calf to me.
But, even in Paul's writings, he talks about the poverty of God.
Yeah.
The powerless, the weakness of God.
Yes, the foolishness of God.
About the weakness of God.
Yeah.
It's Almighty God.
That's right. Right, and there's a whole study we have to do eventually called omnipotence, which is the God, yes, God is almighty precisely because he's self-emptying and he is infinite vulnerability. Paschal, risky vulnerability. But what we do is we would rather worship again Zeus and Baal and all these false gods and call them Yahweh and Trinity. Because see, when we talk about omnipotence, we mean all-powerful coercive force. And that's not just we, it's every culture does that. China does that, various Muslim nations do that, terrorist groups do that. We're all worshiping omnipotence, the all-powerful cruelty God. And then we justify it. Israel does that too, modern Israel. Everybody does that. That's a worldwide idolatry, the God of cruelty. And if you don't believe me, just look at the history of torture. Look at how we destroy people. So yeah, there's a lot of very important business in coming back to the real Jesus, because that's how we take the in and incarnation seriously. If we understand, it's not to celebrate poverty for poverty's sake, and let's all be. No, there's a sinfulness to poverty, not the poor, but in what has been done to them and continually perpetuated on them. And then we talk about God. Your image of God creates you. If your image of God is a great, rich, powerful man, then, well, what are you going to be? If rich, however, real, true riches are sharing and helping those in need and finding Christ in the most, not typically thought of as beautiful and popular and rich, but in the most unlikely and the most excluded, and healing the human race, well, that's going to be a very different gospel. And you may parrot the same words, we may say the same creed, but the meaning of those words is going to be radically different when we come together on Sundays.